This is the Flying Disc Ranch in Thermal, California. Here we're seeing some permaculture principles at work. You have date palms up high. In the understory, here you have some citrus growing in between the dates. That's helping to shade the citrus because it gets pretty hot and pretty dry out here in the summer. Here again we have citrus interplanted with the dates. The undercrop is just some grasses that he's left to grow here, not cutting it out, not trying to control it in any way, occasional mowing, but to basically just mulch down, provide a living mulch to keep the soil nice and moist. Here we're looking down a row of dates. These are barhi dates, interplanted. He has Mineola citrus in the shade of the dates, and he also has figs, which are right about there in the frame. Below here is a grass that he lets grow. He will mow this down to provide a coppice crop. It's biomass for the soil, and while it's growing, it's a living mulch to foster soil organism growth, prevent evaporation, bust up the soil, and all the standard benefits any cover crop would have. Here we're looking at the ground underneath a little citrus tree, which is underneath a date, and underneath the citrus he's growing some aloe vera here, which is sold at farmers markets for medicinal and food and consumption purposes. You can see down here is a heavy palm mulch that's left on the ground to help hold as much moisture as there can stay in. And there's this grass growing down here. This whole area is flood irrigated because they get maybe 2 inches of rain out here a year. So it's pretty lush. It's almost jungle-ish, but that's not due to the rain itself. There's a heck of a lot of irrigation water going into the ground. But even with that, he's doing as much as he possibly can to try and keep that water in the ground and have it penetrate, have it stay there, have it be used most effectively. Here's some kind of volunteer rogue wild grapes growing on the property. Used to grow grapes here in the 80s. These are some remainders that have just propagated and established themselves. Another view of some citrus with some aloe vera under it, and a young date palm. It's probably only a few years old. Here's one of the fig trees that he has growing here. It's just starting to fruit. It's a couple years old. Another one of the understory plants growing. Here's a pomegranate bush that he has growing here. It's got flowers and fruit on it. Another one right there. And again, it's just another example of a understory plant, or what will be an understory plant when this date grows up bigger. Here we have his compost pile. This is from 2010. This is all the palm trimmings, male flowers, everything that's came off of all of the trees stacked up in a big pile. This will later go around the trees. Over here behind the trash can, he's got a big pile of rock dust and gypsum that gets applied to the property to help remineralize the soil. And he said this year, 2012, will be the first year he's never used any sort of animal manures in his compost. So it's just another thing you don't have to bring in, and there's a bit of a market to marketing yourself as a vegan farm. Here's a couple rows of grapevines that he's growing. These initially started on the property, but right now these are just kind of hobbyists or for his own use. Here's a look down a row of dates. You have understory pomegranates here on the side, and you have your figs over here. Again, heavily mulched, living ground cover, understory with overstory. Very productive, a lot of birds in the area, you can hear them, lots of insects. Although palms are basically wind and hand pollinated, it's nice to have the bees in the area and other insects to help control any sort of predatory insects.